Hello everybody, today is Thursday, March 15th, the Ides of March 2018, and welcome to the Abbot's Address. So we're continuing on looking at the request for me to kind of iterate some of the important scriptures, sutras and stuff like that, that are of particular use and relevance for what we do in the Dharma. And there's lots, there's lots. And there are a few that really stand out as having shaped my Dharma particularly. So I guess those are the ones that I'm going to really kind of lean into. So we did the Heart Sutra, that's the main case. But there's more than just that. I mean, there's actually quite a few. And one of them that has really been a major impact on myself and a lot of folks is a translation called, depending whose translation you get, Relying on Mind, Faith in Mind, Verses on Mind. It's by the third ancestor Seng-ts'an, Japanese Sozan. And the way the things are told, he was the successor to Huiko, who was Bodhidharma's successor. Although, who can really say? It's very hard to know. But the main thing that we have from him is actually this. I think it's 72 couplets, and there's a lot of different translations of it that have different flavors to them that are all kind of cool, and interesting. But it's something that a lot of folks have actually committed to memory in the tradition, and it's something that really emphasizes, and you can really feel the early Taoist kind of influence very strongly. Recall that when the teachings moved up from India into China, they didn't encounter a blank slate. It was a rich culture with a lot of deep roots and literacy and so on. And one of the indigenous traditions there is Taoism. And one of the particular qualities of Taoism is this philosophy called Wu Wei, which talks about or points us towards non-doing, right? This idea of just letting nature be itself, of trusting things, of not knowing, and just allowing. So there's verses in the Tao Te Ching that talk about, instead of trying to, people who study every day gain something every day, but people who practice the Tao every day try to lose something every day, and to come down and down more and more to just the essence and allowing things. So it's pretty interesting. It's a pretty interesting flavor, and you can see in these early texts, like this one, that Taoist influence was right up front and right there. Now there's a number of translations that I like. I'm going to put a link down below here to the YouTube thing. There's a nice page that has got links to like all kinds of different translations by different folks, and you can peruse them and see which one sings to you. I always like the Richard Clark version, which is the one that I kind of encountered early in my practice. That's also the same fella that Doan studied with for a while. I think 10 years is a while. Interesting case study himself. But this Verses on Mind is really, really useful. The supreme way is not difficult, it just precludes picking and choosing. Without yearning or loathing, the way is perfectly apparent. While even a hair's breadth difference separates heaven and earth. To see the way with your own eyes, quit agreeing and disagreeing. The battling of like and dislike is the disease of the mind. Misunderstanding the great mystery, people labor in vain for peace. Mind has the totality of space, nothing lacking, nothing extra, etc. It's just selecting and picking that makes it seem otherwise. And it goes on in this way. And I think it's particularly important to have some sense of this sutra's teaching, this work. And it's kind of an interesting contrast because lately with all the shootings, the school shootings, and the violence that has been going on, I find myself really thinking about violence a lot, and thinking about my relationship with violence and our society's relationship with violence. Um, I mean, I've been doing martial arts for 40 years. It's not a new topic to me, and yet there's a new awareness that's happening, and I think it's really critical. And I guess to go on a little bit of a tangent, one thing that's occurring to me to say is that, yeah, I guess I'll just go ahead and say it. I mean, one of the most important things in relationship to violence is to be very clear to trust your intuition about things. One of the things that I think can happen is that you can read the relying on mind teachings and kind of get a false take on it and sort of say, oh, picking and choosing is a disease of the mind, and you can start arguing against your own intuition. And many times our intuition is just goofy, but actually when it comes to your own safety, your own personal safety, there's tons of evolutionary intelligence packed into each one of us about, is this safe or not? Am I in danger or not? Right? So one thing that I know for myself, I've lived in big cities, I've lived in different settings and situations. I always have trusted my own intuition. If something in my present circumstance is giving me signals in my gut, in my hara, that this isn't safe, I honor that. And I guess the reason why I'm feeling like saying that is that I don't want you to read these texts and try to like dampen your own intelligence with it. That's not what it's about, okay? Avoiding picking and choosing doesn't mean putting yourself into an unsafe situation and saying, oh, well, I don't want to pick and choose, okay? If you are in a situation where your gut is telling you this is not good, honor that and make the appropriate moves, okay? And there's nothing un-Buddhist about that. So if you're a young woman and then the elevator opens in the parking garage and there's a person in there that you get a very unsafe vibe about, my advice would be for you to honor your feeling and not get in the elevator, right? If you say, oh, well, I want to avoid picking and choosing, so I guess I'll just go ahead, and you put yourself in a soundproofed metal box with someone that your gut is telling you is this is not a good thing to do, that's not what you want to be doing. Okay, does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. I don't want to be alarmist or anything, but martial artists have long had a good relationship with the Dharma and with Zen, and there's no conflict there, actually. So trust your intuition, trust your gut, particularly around safety and violence and all of this thing. The fact is that violence has a very clear pre-incident indicator pattern. We know how to see this coming. Your gut does, your DNA, your genetics knows when violence is going to happen. So trust that and move to safety and do the right stuff, okay? So for whatever reason, that's what I wanted to say about this, picking and choosing. And it is, in fact, the disease of the mind. That's the other side of this, okay? So how do you understand it thoroughly and correctly? Well, a commentary is this one. It's called The Eye Never Sleeps. This was composed released anyway, I think in 1991 about. It's by Dennis Genpo Roshi, who is a controversial figure, frankly. He got into some sex scandals and this kinds of thing, and is controversial. But the teachings here are not. I think they're really good and very solid. It's got a good introduction by Maizumi Roshi. And the reason I hold this up is that for me, this was a commentary on the text that actually shifted the needle for me on a couple of things. So I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's more current in other ones. But this one actually really does stand up, and I'm going to go ahead and hold it up and put a cautionary tale about Genpo Roshi. He's, what can I say? But the commentary here is good. Okay, so there we are. kind of an interesting Abbot's address today. Not picking and choosing, and violence is real. Let's learn how to work with that. We need to. So I guess other announcements, I think towards the end of the month on the Saturday, there's an afternoon workshop where we're going to continue working on with the Ongo theme of death and dying. It's the week-long teaching retreat that we finished up last week was phenomenal. It went really well. We're very pleased with the work that was done there. I think something like 70 some odd people participated throughout the course of the week. There was a lot of profound sharing and a lot that I learned. So I'm really grateful for everyone's involvement in that. And if you weren't able to participate in that and any of the little bits, there is an opportunity coming up Saturday afternoon towards the end of this month. Make a point to be there. I think it goes from like 1 to 5. It's on the temple calendar. Check it out. Okay. Thank you all for your practice.